Innovation is often inspired by biomimicry, the design and production of materials modeled on biological entities. Our guest is passionate about solving complex societal problems with cutting edge technology, and she was inspired by the Metalmark butterfly for her innovative new product. Oh my gosh, you're going to love learning how this fascinating product works and how, after 7 years of research and design, it's ready to launch. Stay tuned for the Startup Life Live show. Let's glow, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Live show. I'm your host, Andy Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And after raising 4 businesses, I got to tell you, I know how hard it can be some days crawling through the murky waters, right, of the startup journey. So I'm so delighted and thrilled that you carved out time to tune in and up your founder game here on the Startup Life Live show, because as you do better, founders, that's right, your startup will do better. I'm blowing kisses to all of the live viewers and replay viewers and podcast listeners. I'm so grateful for your time and your presence, and look forward to hearing what you think about this specific episode. Be sure to like the video wherever you are watching. And if you're tuning in on YouTube, hit that thumbs up right there, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you'd like to get a deep dive whenever I post a new show, which is twice a week usually, please join the Startup Life Live meetup group. That way you'll get a deep dive on who I'm having on the show, what they're up to, and the gems that they're going to be bringing to help you with your founder journey. And those of you who tune in on the podcast, wow, to subscribe and rate and all the good things. I'd be so grateful wherever you're listening, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I'm grateful for your like, love, and support. To the female founders out there, are you thinking about getting WeBank certified? That's right. That's the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. Are you thinking about getting this certificate? This is for U.S. female founders. If you are and you're struggling with that application, or you look at that application and go, oh, hell no, call me, email me, Andy@andylyons.com, because I have helped dozens of women cross the finish line with that darn application. It is hard and it's ambiguous and it's just really, so if you're struggling with that, please give me a shout out, okay? I'd be happy to help you. And if you're raising funds, please check out Scroobius. It is truly one of the best peer supports and platforms that will help you get pitch ready for raising capital from investors. And it's right there. It says a human first fundraising experience. It sure is. And it's very affordable. When I say affordable, I'm talking maybe $20 a month. Okay. So go on over there, check it out, kick the tires. And of course, use Andy15 when you check out and you'll get a discount. Thank you so much for supporting that. I have to talk about something today, folks. We've got some big things happening in our world. And so before I introduce our guest, I want to take a moment to talk about Silicon Valley Bank. They are not doing well. And at this point, which is March 10th, 2023, we don't know how they will survive this huge financial crisis they're facing. And I was a commercial lender at Bank of New England in 1991 when it went under and was seized by the FDIC. And this was a 150-year-old financial institution. And what had happened is that they had overinvested in the real estate market and lent to the real estate market. And when the New England real estate market collapsed in 1990, so did the Bank of New England. But here's what I want to talk about. The loss to the employees working at the bank was devastating. I witnessed people losing their entire life savings, and I watched as a mass exodus walked out of the corporate headquarters in downtown Boston. Now, I've known Silicon Valley Bank since it's opened its first office here in Boston in 1987. It was really out in Wellesley. And as an active member of the Boston startup ecosystem, I've seen firsthand the enormous value Silicon Valley Bank has provided to the Boston startup community, from sponsoring events to providing space for startups to gather to providing outstanding free educational sessions for founders. For decades, Silicon Valley Bank has added wind to startup sales and opened doors for founders around the country. And as Silicon Valley Bank goes through this difficult time, I'm just asking you to please keep their employees in your thoughts and hearts. We can all go on about the current situations and VCs and bank leaders, et cetera, but remember those who have been on the teams making Silicon Valley Bank thrive over the years through a difficult time. So just wanted to share that with you. So, on the side, I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, Sissi Liu. I'm going to pop up a little artwork here while I chat about her background. After nearly 20 years in clean tech, sustainability, entrepreneurship, and venture investing, Sissi co-founded Metalmark Innovations to tackle air quality and climate change challenges. Metalmark is a public benefits corporation and is releasing its patent pending product, Tatama, the first self-cleaning commercial air purifier. And inspired by the nanostructure of the Metalmark butterfly's wings, Tatama provides air cleaning with HEPA-grade filters that capture 99.97% of airborne particles. Come on, this is a tough thing to figure out. No wonder it took them 7 years of R&D to make it happen. Let's bring Sissi into the room. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I feel like I should have a butterfly going by the whole time. I should have thought of that on the
next time we'll
overlay.
Do a clapper that looks like a butterfly. How's that?
There we go. We could have done that. Oh, I'm so happy that you're joining me today. Where are you? Because you're right down the road from me, right?
Yeah, we're located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, so very close to where you are.
Yeah, right outside of Boston, everyone. So Sissi and I are part of the wonderful community that we have here in Boston. We're very blessed to have all the support and resources that this beautiful city and greater Boston area provides for us. Sissi, I always love to know, you had 20 years in all sorts of activities in clean tech and sustainability and entrepreneurship and venture investing. What called you to want to launch your own business and become an entrepreneur? And did you have role models, or were you a hustler in grade school? Tell us your origin story.
Yeah, so thanks for that question. As you mentioned, I've been in clean tech for quite a long time, for much of my career.
And what category? Because clean tech covers a lot.
Yeah.
Where did you focus?
Yeah, initially it was in clean energy, energy efficiency technology. So everything from solar, wind generation across to building energy technologies. And then got a little bit more into the other types of clean energy, clean fuel production. So that's where I spent almost 6 years with a startup called Joule. And we were doing carbon dioxide to fuel conversion using cyanobacteria. So a lot of cutting edge science, biotech. Yeah, and did a lot of variety of things, helped to do capital projects. And then, it was kind of a natural progression ultimately. So in my early days of coming out of college, or even during college, I was very excited about what was happening during the dot-com boom. It feels so ancient now, but that was when I got the bug, and was really just this is where I wanted to be. But then I quickly found out that I didn't have a passion for tech as on its own.
Service.
It needed to have some greater good attached to why I'm doing a technology commercialization, and so that's what led me into clean tech, sustainability related technologies. And as I said, it's a kind of a natural progression. I did investing in it. I did consulting work in this space, and then was in a startup. And ultimately, it's just made sense to carry that through to
Right.
doing a startup myself.
Well,
So
and I love that you worked at a startup because there's nothing like that, right? You're going to see how the founders move and struggle and
yeah.
navigate, right? And so you can say, okay, this is how I might want to do it, right? And
Or not do it.
or not do it.
Yes.
Exactly. And I love that you knew what was going to light you up, right? That you had to have something that's going to have impact and a greater good. And I understand. I owned a .com, so I remember those days and what that was like. And I'm so happy that it sort of gave you the inspiration, but you knew that it couldn't just be any old money making thing. You needed something that helped you, have a North Star, right? And have that
Right.
purpose bringing you forward. So, how did the whole Metalmark journey begin? Because I'm so curious. When you go, folks, when you go to launch a business like that has a technology that's going to take a lot of attempts and failures and reiterations along the way, it does take years. What was that like, Sissi? How did you all start together? Who was there first, or had somebody already started and then you joined the team? Tell us about Metalmark's origin story.
Yeah. So, my background is entirely on the business side. I don't have a technology background. What I do bring is, the ability to kind of connect some dots that, from the technology to a product to the commercial market, what does that look like, and why do we need to have a commercially driven kind of R&D path, for example. It was not sort of a natural thing where I invented something in the laboratory and decided to bring it out of the lab. That was not me. That was my co-founder primarily. In fact, I have three co-founders, and two of whom are full-time at Metalmark. And so they invented the technology, the advanced materials technology
Right.
at Harvard. And that's where they did many years of research, which we don't even all count towards the Metalmark history. But a couple of years of validation related R&D, we do believe kind of set the foundation for Metalmark. And when I joined them back in 2017 to kind of start looking at commercialization, it was through the Wyss Institute at Harvard. We were connected through the Wyss, and I simply, was helping as a consultant to say, is there a commercial viability here for this materials technology? And
And
ultimately,
oh, go
yeah.
ahead. No, that's great. Go ahead. Sorry.
So we decided to launch the startup officially in and by the end of 2018. So 2017, the team had already founded Metalmark as an incorporation entity.
Right.
We took the time to really develop the thesis around the business opportunity, and we went through the National Science Foundation's I-Core program, utilized that as a avenue to get a lot of customer interviews done, and that's what ultimately led us to actually launch as a fully operating entity by the end of 2018.
Wow. Okay. Hooray for all of that. And I have to tell you, Cece, the number one most common comment I get from founders is like, I should be further along. I'm going to use Metalmark as my new barometer check for everybody. These things take time, folks. It's the 10, 11-year overnight success. You know that. And so, but I'm fascinated about I have a couple of questions. One,
Sure.
because I know you're an impact person, and we talked about earlier how the company is a public benefit corp, right?
Yes.
Was that initially, or did you start as an Inc. and then got the PBC entity identifier? How did that work?
Yeah, so we started as a normal C Corp
Mm-hmm.
in Delaware registered. And just over the course of the next couple of years of operating Metalmark, I think we all are very much on board with this, making a social impact with what we do. It at one point it became clear that as a purely for-profit corporation, you have limitations for in terms of what other bottom lines you might be looking at. So early in my career, this whole notion of triple bottom line came out, and it was not highly regarded for a long time. But fast forward about 10, 15 years, there's now a legal structure that enables corporations to be established with not simply fiduciary responsibility to the investors and looking only at return on investment from a fiscal perspective, but also from a social impact perspective. And so that gives us the ability to say, we can make certain decisions at Metalmark that are not purely cost driven or purely financial driven, that we actually take into consideration what we're doing as an impact to society.
See, and I
So
love that. And the beauty, folks, of a public benefit corporation is that they force the company to follow certain rules in order to comply with being a PBC. And that helps you, the consumer, feel even better in whether you're investing in the company or buying the company's products, because you know that they are deeply focused and committed. Right, Sissi?
yeah, I think it's not just it's great from a consumer perspective, but to me as a founder, I
Mm-hmm.
also wanted to make sure that our stakeholders, our investors, partners, customers are well aligned with our mission and purpose. So it helps to do that too.
I think that's a beautiful quote right there. And I'm just also going to have a little Andy-licious moment right here, because you could also stitch that on a pillow, but I'm just going to have the Andy-licious moment. So true, Cece, to make sure the stakeholders are in alignment with who you be as a company. Love that. Something fierce. Let's spend just a minute or two on the patent process, because the co-founders came up with a phenomenal disruptive technology. How did the patent process work, and how long is that taking? And give us just some insights on that.
Yeah, so I wanted to echo what you were saying earlier about how long some technologies can take to be birthed. In this case, we're dealing with advanced materials, we're dealing with technologies that were first invented from a basic research perspective. And it takes a lot longer than your typical software company, for instance. And the patent process is equally long. So, what I have found is that the patent, filing from the initial patent filing all the way to actual issuance can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. You might be very lucky if you get it within a couple of years, but that doesn't happen often. And so it's a very long process. So, by the time you figure out something innovative, you have to take it through this very rigorous process. And a lot of times it's just waiting to even get your technology in front of the patent examiner. But it's a good process. We learn a lot along the way, and we come up with additional ideas, and can patent additional
I
innovations.
love it. Yeah, I love it. I'm going to say hello to a few folks before we move on, because I'm
Sure.
going to show a video, everybody, on how this product works next. So just hang in there. Hello, Brent Manuel from Ottawa, Canada. You are definitely a diverse person and our loyal fan. And Brent is here, Cece, to always remind us every show that folks with disabilities, visible or invisible, belong at companies, at startups, and they deserve a seat at the table. And I'm always happy to have you here and sharing that with us. And of course, one of our favorite audience participants, the one and only Mia Voss. And what happens, everybody, when Mia is stepping into the room with us? That's right. I do a shout out for her incredible podcast called Shit We Don't Talk About with Mia Voss. Oh my gosh, the most recent episodes lately, Mia, phenomenal. No one talks about the stuff we shouldn't be talking about or should be talking about better than Mia Voss. And Richard, oh, happy to see you, you podcast host as well. He's asking, what is biomimicry? Now, I know, what I go and talk about it. Do you want to talk about it, Sissi, and share what that is?
Sure. Biomimicry is, how we can use technology, engineering, to mimic what we find in nature, and essentially utilizing nature's initial creations and ideas and wisdom, in fact, to create solutions for people, for society. And so it's such a fabulous area. I learned about it over 20 years ago as well, and have been fascinated with it ever since. There's just so many things you could do with learning from nature and adapting nature's solutions.
What's another example other than your wonderful technology?
So, a very early example I recall is using certain plants to absorb toxic materials from the ground.
Yeah.
That was a very initial thing that I had learned about. There's in the case of we know of a lot of other startups that are in biomimicry, and many of those are immaterial. And the reason is that nature is actually the first inventor of nanotechnology.
Right.
So, there's a lot of different things that nature has already done in organisms to provide the ability for organisms to thrive in nature, to compete well in ecosystems. And then they're so adaptable for what we can do. So one example would be, there is a startup now that utilizes structures that are found in certain types of shrimp. That because of the structuration of the material, it enables much stronger ultimate structure in the, even though it's using a very simple organic materials
Right.
to work with. So
I love
there are
that.
many examples of that. Another is one of our sister companies from Harvard. They started with a slippery surface coating, and that was inspired by things like lotus leaves, and you can provide self-cleaning to surfaces through structuring materials.
Oh my gosh. See, Richard O, you're the best for asking that question. Thank you. And Laura Keshi, I agree. Amazing, smart woman. Love hearing about biomimicry. And nature is amazing, and we should all learn from nature. And you should know, Goddess Laura, because you are the founder of Zaze, a phenomenal virgin olive oil that's won so many awards. But more importantly, and you'll love this, Sissi, it's all harvested from female farmers in Turkey.
Wow.
How wonderful is that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura, for stopping by. We'll do a little shout out to that and everybody. That's ZAAZY olive oil. Go check it out. Award winning and loved around the world. So I'm going to show a video now, folks, so you can get a good idea of what. It's just a minute long, so hang in there and you'll be able to hear it as well, podcast listeners, of how Metalmark works. Let's go.
We typically spend 90% or more of our time inside buildings. In these places, we're exposed to much higher concentrations of invisible airborne threats than outdoors. Viruses like coronavirus, bacteria, mold, particulates smaller than 1 micron, smoke, plus VOCs off-gassed from the building and furniture materials. Introducing Metalmark Tatama, the first self-cleaning commercial air purifier. Inspired by the nanostructure of Metalmark butterfly wings, Tatama starts with HEPA-grade media, capturing more than 99.97% of particulates. And we go beyond HEPA with a proprietary multifunctional coating. Once a month, the system is activated to destroy the collected pollutants, converting them into harmless air and water, while renewing the filters for the next cycle. The result is a near maintenance-free air cleaning experience. On top of this, Tatama provides you with real-time IAQ data, so you can see the indoor air quality improvements and make your buildings function smarter.
How cool is that, Sissi? Come on.
Thank you so much.
There's nothing better, folks, than a really good explainer video when you have something that's complicated and people are going to say, what? Now you
There are
can see.
lots of parts to the technology, indeed.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love this something fierce. So now here comes in your business acumen, right? Which is how do we create, now that we've got our MVP, how do we prove our value proposition that someone is going to want to use this? And I do believe, since you have it as a commercial, first self-cleaning commercial air purifier, that you are a B2B business. How did you make that decision?
We started building our hardware prototypes before COVID, and then of course COVID started, and our thesis was around commercial buildings and university schools, medical facilities, and government buildings and such, because that's actually where a lot of us go to gather.
Yeah.
We don't do quite as much of that public type of gathering at our homes for the most part, but where we do come together is in these larger buildings, and we can transmit more diseases to each other, and there are also increasingly other climate change related threats like wildfire smoke, and who wants to go
Oh
to
my
work, right?
gosh. Northern
Who wants to go to work
California.
when you can sit at home and be remote? But perhaps we can give people an incentive to go to cleaner buildings that have better air for them. So that's kind of the original.
Sissi, I'm in love with that. Anybody who has been surrounded by that smoke, or even here in Boston when we had all that smoke came out and hit us, it was like, and to be able to go into a building and have it clean and also know, and especially hotels, right?
Yeah.
I think this is so important, but you still had to, this is parts and pieces, right? So you need to be able to pull this together and manufacture. How did you figure all of that part out?
So a lot of this was just, I have to say, in the past, I've worked with a lot of different startups, and every scenario is a little bit different. And when selling to B2B with an actual hardware product that you can just replicate, it's a little bit different. It's kind of a little bit more similar to a consumer product, that it is a fully self-packaged hardware piece, but it's a little different from some of the other things I've worked on, like solar systems.
Right, those are big.
And those can go utility scale, right? So it's kind of in between for me, and so it's been a lot of learning along the way. But many of the same lessons apply. Building relationships with different vendors and partners, and good project management throughout, so that and everybody else is on the same page about where you're trying to get to.
And did you focus on one segment? I brought up hotels, but did you focus on certain corporate environments first? Did you go to one particular customer segment?
Yeah, so our first focus was on universities and corporations that own their buildings, and similarly other types of organizations that actually own and manage their own buildings, ones like public schools and those. And so it's been, we do a lot of customer discovery interviews. I mentioned that we went through the National Science Foundation's ICRO program, and we did over 100 interviews with customers. And since then, we've been continuously updating our interviews. And those are all data points we use to kind of assess, are we correct, right? So we started the design process by learning from customers, what are your pain points? Why did we build a self-cleaning system? Why not just focus on the material? But self-cleaning comes in so that we can increase the longevity of the filter and decrease the maintenance required. And that was a big complaint we heard from customers. And so it's very customer driven throughout the process, but customer needs are changing, market needs are changing all the time. And so we continuously do those updates, and we pivot based on what we actually see as the reality of the market.
And is Tatama made here in the U.S. or do you get it?
It is. It is made in the U.S.
Oh,
Yeah.
love that too, because look, that's all about supply chain, right? You want
Yeah.
it to be local, to be a sustainable company. And are your parts and pieces kind of clean as well, or how do you manage that?
So
Parts and
we
pieces.
don't have a lot of imported materials,
Okay,
but it has
it's
a lot of
hardware.
different hardware
Yep.
pieces, and so but for the most part, the system components are also all made in the U.S. There's very little that's coming from abroad. We kind of did this on purpose as well because, on the one hand, it's important to control the initial design, development, and production, and learn from that process. But it's also good from a local supply chain perspective. And this became even more real during COVID
Yeah.
because, I couldn't really travel anywhere else to oversee production or to visit factories. But it was possible to be locally done.
I
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's tremendous. To me, it fits in beautifully in alignment with your PBC status. So that's great. So Richard has a great question here. Are the Metalmark units low noise or silent?
So the noise issue is something that all air purifier makers have to deal with. And what we want to achieve is a very high efficacy with as little noise as possible. I think there's some confusion. There tends to be confusion in the market. What do we mean by high efficacy? And so there are standards for testing that we go through, and we report based on the common units so as not to confuse people. So our units do provide very high degree of air cleaning. It is very quiet though. It is installed in the ceiling. We have it installed, and you can hardly hear it. So we spend a lot of time to try and get the noise problem solved, and it was not straightforward.
No, it never is. But
Yeah.
you and things will happen and you'll evolve with whatever your customers are going to need going forward. But I love that you've really differentiated Tatama by having the uh, it be self-cleaning, because folks, at your home with your own air conditioners, et cetera. Oh my gosh, do I need to clean that filter out? Who's got time for that, right? Who's got time to even remember that? And so that, I think, is a wonderful differentiator for you, especially in the commercial market. And Richard O has a great follow-on question I'm going to pull up now since we're talking about all this. Is Tatama end user installed, or does it require a trained installer?
We are targeting commercial buildings, so for the most part, it would be installed by a qualified contractor or installer. If you have a facility team that is well trained in this aspect, then you can have that done in
Excellent.
house. But for the most part, we don't we don't believe this is something just for consumers to pop into their ceiling at this
Right.
point.
Now, given that it was a long process to when you finally are launching and now, you're bringing it to market today, how have you funded? How's everybody been able to eat and keep the lights on in their
Yeah.
homes and their lives along the way? What has worked for you for bringing on investors or funding for the company?
For hard tech, tough tech startups that require a lot of laboratory research, I tend to
Right.
believe, unless you're in life sciences, that's a different story. But in everything else, the federal government's grant funding has been a great help and friend to Metalmark. And in also, as I've observed with other startups I've mentored or been on the board of, federal government funding and state level grant funding tend to be super, super important because of the long cycle of development. And oftentimes, especially early in my career, I didn't find that much patient capital. And so, your typical VC cycles terms are 10 years, and there's a need to deploy the capital, and so you end up in a situation where you are in a rush to see things go to market, and you can't be as patient with certain technology development. And unfortunately, that's at odds with tough tech. And so we've really we have been very fortunate, I should say, to have gotten National Science Foundation and the National Institute of Health funding to support our work. But obviously, that's not enough. You can't survive just on grant funding. And so we also have venture investing. Venture capital investment.
And of course, I don't hear this used very often. Patient capital. Come on, I love that. Something fierce. These companies, they need a long runway. It can't be like chop, chop, let's go. We got to exit. We got to get things moving. We got to get our money back. Boom, boom, boom. And folks, the DOE alone has a $2 billion loan program, not to mention all the grants. I mean, everybody who knows me personally knows my husband's one of the grandfathers of energy storage, right? So he got a $40+ million grant for the first energy storage facility from the US government. So, the money is out there, especially for clean tech, for innovative products that we have. Don't leave money on the table by not researching what we call non-dilutive capital. Folks, it's really helpful for those early stages when you're trying to prove your MVP, pull your MVP together and then go out into the market and prove it. So thank you for sharing that. And when you did go to traditional capital sources, can you speak a little bit about are you the only woman on the team?
No, we are actually majority women-owned.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so my two of my co-founders out of the three are female, and we've kind of been very aligned on some of the things that we do. And our team is kind of naturally, organically diverse. So if you take a look at our website and the team, you'll see that it reflects who we are.
Answering Brent's question, everybody, who on every show, how diverse is your company? That's wonderful. Right. So as women showing up to raise capital with traditional sources, and it's one thing if it's wealthy individuals, but if you're going into the venture capital lane, how did you handle the pushback and the implicit bias given your gender?
I have to say that I've always felt that there's some kind of bias, because I'm also a minority.
Right. That's
and
right.
Early in my career, I also felt quite young in a boardroom. So there are so many things that were always quite front and center for me. I went to a women's college. I went to Wellesley. And so, the gender issue is there for me as well. So I'm sensitive to these issues. I have to say, though, I during fundraising for Metalmark, I haven't quite felt like sort of distinct pushback from VCs. Maybe because we have been so out front about that being, mission focused, and that eliminates a lot of VCs from the pool immediately. So maybe there's a good process of elimination there. But what I do find sometimes the feedback to me is a little bit more subtle rather than outwardly gender bias. And I've had one VC say to me that they're looking to fund, charismatic founders, and I don't really know how one would objectively define what charismatic means. But there's a certain attachment of.
I can understand having that conversation with your VC team after the founder leaves the room, but to look at a founder and just basically insult them because their nature is not dynamic and bringing everybody in and charismatic, and don't you just want to be part of me and my wonderful journey? Come on, it's about the company and how you're delivering and executing and implementing. Yep. They're lucky I didn't have my other clapper to go boom, boom across their face. But thank you for sharing that, because plenty of women have, had a very hard time, as you know, in raising capital. Our guest earlier this week, Xenia said that, she just brought all the men with her. She just said she didn't care. She just brought the heavy hitter guys with her, surrounded herself with them, and said, "Show me the money." And they were like, "Here you go." And that was the way she chose to do it, and she had great results. She's running the show. She is the number one founder. She has no co-founders, but we do what we have to. And I am so glad that you found ways to monetize this wonderful, wonderful product. It's a game changer. And I'm so, so excited about all parts and pieces. Richard O comes back with his third awesome question today. Will there be a home consumer unit someday?
We are in development of one. But everything takes time. Yeah. So it's coming.
But it's great to have a product in the hopper, folks. When you develop your first product, you don't want to go off and do any other ones too soon. You want to really get great traction on that first original. And then you can start springboarding off that original and diversify your product line. But great question, Richard O. So tell us, Sissi, what does success look like for you, for Metalmark? And is it a feeling? Is it an outcome? And how are you measuring this definition of success? Because so often we tend to use someone else's measuring tape instead of our own. Please talk about success for you and the team.
I think success for us, I think on a grand scheme, would be to see our product adopted by markets, by people actually using our technology and our product. That would make me super happy. Do I have a personal sort of financial target? No. I see the milestones as more immediate. So given every phase of a startup, there are different types of success metrics. And I'm pretty focused on hitting those so that we can get to the next level. But ultimately, my success would be to see our products actually being used and having that traction, having that the product out there, people enjoying it and delivering.
I want to see the write-ups in the press. I want to see, of course, would you do TikTok for Metalmark? I don't know, but the video going, look at it's in action. Oh my gosh. Just saying, Louis. There's ways to bring, such a great, wonderful, wonderful product. And me, as I said earlier, I see it in hotels and other locations as well as corporations. And it could be a little more of a benefit to get employees back in the building more often and more frequently, because, hey, you're not going to get this level of clean air at home, folks. Right. I love that. And so another thing, question I want to ask, is there a shout out you want to do for someone who has added wind to your sales and opened doors for you or lifted you up? Because there's another meme in the entrepreneurship world, which is, oh, she's a self-made woman. You're a self-made man. No, I don't think so. Who would you like to share? Just say a quick thank you for adding wind to my sales.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people, and that's the bottom line, is that there are so many people who have given so much to make us to help us get to where we are. There are many organizations and individuals within those organizations. I can't even pick. That is the hard
it's
thing.
Like the Academy Awards. Where do I start? You've all been wonderful.
Well, no, I mean, but I am very sincere about it, because right now it's all going through my mind, and I'm having a hard time just.
Because each step of the way, there's that person who has believed the entire time, no matter what, that you would figure it out. You and the team would make this happen. Then other people come in and out. It's kind of a little bit of a revolving door sometimes, right? They come in, they help, and then they're on. They're like, thank you very much. Right?
Yeah, and we've had some folks who have been with us from day one. It's not just one person. That's the thing. There are many people who have been along our journey for a long time.
Well, I've got some maracas out for you folks. You know who you are, who have helped and get and move product and all of that and helped get this company where it is today. And speaking of great founders, hello, fab female founder April Carr Kelly, who is the founder of the Sure Company. And you're a mom, so you know how sometimes when you get those kids on formula, it's not going to work. There's allergies and what the heck is in those formulas, and other ways to make the first few years work great. Well, that's what the Sure Company with April at the helm has developed. And she's been in the lab a lot, right, April? So you understand it takes time to develop products, recipes, technology, and it's important that we spend time doing that. So when you have been, you've got a wonderful co-founding team. So of course you can all commiserate together. But when you are feeling inadequate as a founder, how do you shift your headspace? How do you get that mindset back out of, oh no, this is terrible. What was I thinking, into I'm a winner. The company's going to make it. We're amazing.
Yeah. It happens quite frequently, I have to say. My husband tells me that it's kind of a roller coaster he's watching from the sidelines.
It sure is.
But it is really, having some really people that you love who are around you, who give you that support to help you recalibrate, and also getting sufficient rest and exercise. I find that those tend to help to reset. Sometimes you want to make a decision immediately, but it's helpful to sleep on it with a fresh eye in the morning to rethink. Also, just exercising is fabulous for clearing the head and giving you that boost of endorphins, and to say, you know what, this is okay. I can do this. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. It really is true. And of course, exercise, even a brisk walk, everybody, it really helps you manage the anxiety. You're drinking lots of water. But I want to also amplify what you said. And oh my gosh, it just went right out of my head before the exercise. Oh, taking that time to just go, I want to respond to that right away. I want to deal with that right away. You folks, you know what that's like, founders. I can just shoot out 3 more emails, or I can make a decision. Sleep on it. That is so key, because you might feel the same way in the morning, but you might have even more enlightenment when you return, right?
Right. Yes. Exactly.
I love that advice, Sissi. Thank you. And now that you've been in the entrepreneurship lane yourself, as a founder, as an owner, how are you feeling? Like, how have you seen yourself evolve since 2017 and as an entrepreneur, both personally and professionally?
I really enjoy the journey. I think from the early days, I've always wanted to do a startup. It's something that had impact, and it is sort of my way to give back. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think this is the right path for me. So yeah.
I think what I see a lot, Sissi, is that, and especially when taking on a big, hairy idea like what you're working on, is that you needed this for your full expression in the world at this time in your life, for you to feel really like you're tapping in, right, to all the brilliance that you have, even though you didn't know what it was at the time, as you started to figure out things and onboard talent and do all the things that founders have to do, and the problems that you're able to step more fully into the best of who you can be. What is that quote by Oprah? Oh yeah, the truest, highest version of yourself. I have it on my wall.
I love that. I love that.
Isn't that great? Oh my gosh. I am so thrilled that you were able to join us today and share your innovation, share your story, your important insights. What final words would you like to share with the audience and the viewers and listeners regarding Metalmark and your journey before I pop you into the green room and wrap up the show?
Yeah, I would love for people to start using our product, and really appreciate the support I've gotten from everybody in the startup community in Boston area and beyond, and our investors and all the stakeholders. And it's not easy for all the founders who are in this journey together, and I'm sure you agree. And I think we can all support each other. I love to learn from everybody here as well. I'm always
Excellent.
walking away with more lessons learned.
Well, I'm just going to do a call to action right here. If you know somebody that's in a commercial building that makes these decisions, please introduce them to Sissi and Metalmark and the team there, because social capital is a delicious gift you can give someone. So make those introductions. Keep Metalmark in mind in your own building, or whatever, just to keep them there, and be sure to spread the word and add wind. And I'm just so grateful for you for coming on and carving out time out of your busy day to share your startup and founder journey with us, Sissi. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Andy. You've been so fabulous. I really enjoyed the conversation and your energy, and the way that you interact with everybody who's listened in, who's tuned in. So
that's
thank
great.
you so much for the opportunity.
For years to come, Sissi, you're going to be benefiting folks, because these videos and the audio are around for forever, and someone's going to do a search on biomimicry or nanotechnology, and this is going to come up and they're going to learn from you. So that's why I'm so grateful for your time. And I can't wait to hug you in person. You're right down the road. So
yes,
we're going to make that happen. I'll come find down and say hi to everybody. Oh my gosh, I love it when I get to interview someone who's got this incredible technology, right? Clean technology, something that's really going to change the world and how, our health and everything. And it's complicated, right? And all the parts and pieces involved. It makes me fan myself when they start chatting and sharing their stories. Let me share with you who is coming on the show next. I don't know if you've heard of the amazing Jackie Summers, but we're chatting with Jackie on March 14th at 12 p.m. That's Tuesday. He's the founder of Sorel, a Caribbean-inspired artisanal liqueur brand. And let me tell you, Jackie, he had zero experience in the liquor industry. He didn't have a background as a food scientist. He knew no one, had no connections, and had never worked in a bar, restaurant, or distillery. But he did have an abundance of audacity and passion, and a great mentor. And his product soared until unexpected circumstances brought the business to a halt for 4 years. Oh, yeah. And then it relaunched. What a story. But this guy has faced so much adversity in his life, including a diagnosis with a really bad cancerous tumor on his spine. Beat that odds so he can beat these odds as well. You're going to love this inspirational conversation. And how do you know? Whenever I post a new show, well, you're over there on the Startup Life Live meetup group. Come on over. You can scan that QR code or tap the URL in the show notes. Love to see you there. Until next time, and while you're out there getting up every day and making it happen, I want you to please remember that you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem. And as we say here in Boston, you're wicked smarter than you think. You've got this. Cheers, everyone. Wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Mwah.